Alright guys, so for this video we're going to be looking for birch. Now there's different types of birch trees out there, different species. I'm going to show some of the most common ones. And birch bark itself is an amazing natural tinder source. It's going to be great for making fires, especially in wet weather, similar to fat wood. So stay with me guys and let's get into it. Alright guys, so for this first tree, it's going to be white birch or paper birch. And it's going to be this nice white tree right here. And there's actually a bunch all over right here. It's a nice little cluster of them. There's some right here as well, close to the pond. And paper birch or white birch, let's call it paper birch the rest of this video. Paper birch is pretty common in the northeastern woodlands. It has a chemical called betulin, and that makes the bark very flammable. It also gives it waterproofing qualities. So let's go ahead and process some of this bark and we'll go from there. And real quick, you can see here all this dead, rotting birch. You can see that the birch bark is still intact. It's actually rot and fungus resistant. You can see some over here as well. So it's really great. You can literally just peel off huge chunks of all that birch bark still, and that's still gonna be really flammable. Like this is tons and tons and tons of potential fires right here. Paper birch is also pretty easy, it just peels off usually. Kind of nice chunks. You can actually use a knife and cut big strips out of it. I think back in the day they used to use this stuff for toilet paper and writing on, and like making insides of canoes to make more waterproof. You can make containers out of this stuff. It's pretty useful stuff actually. But today we're going to use it for fires. So let's gather a little bit. I'm not trying to get too much. And let's see how it works. Alright, so I got a little firelight demonstration for you guys. Let's just take some sticks, put them on the ground. This helps separate, if the ground was wet, for example, or moist, separates the moist ground from your kindling that'll go there, and then it'll start burning all the kindling around it. That'll start drying that out and igniting really well. Then you can take another bundle of kindling and then spread it on top. So let's go ahead and ignite this birch bark. And again, a lighter will work amazingly with all types of birch bark species of birch, but it is good to practice with a ferrocerium rod if you want to be into wilderness survival in the outdoors, because it is an amazing tool and resource to have on you. So I'm just going to process this down a bit, expose some more of these fibers. I would say between most birch species, paper birch is one of the harder ones to start with a ferrocerium rod, and it's not that it's hard, but compared to like river birch and yellow birch, I think this one is probably one of the harder ones compared to the other three, or other two at least. I'm just going to expose those guys. Okay, process it down a bit. Come down here. You can raise it to let it climb. I burn really well. Actually, you place that in your fire lay. And then if you have a bunch of other birch bark available, and let's say this kindling is really wet in the sides and you really want to dry it out, you can totally take more birch bark and add it on top. And that'll help kind of augment that flame. It'll catch really, really good. Take your other kindling, place it on top, take more birch bark, and that betulin is such a great accelerant. It's going to really help pull those flames through all that stuff. You have a really quick fire. So let's move on to some other species of birch. Alright, and really quick guys, just for an FYI, so this tree right here, it can look like a white birch or paper birch, but this is actually an aspen. And there's actually even whiter ones than this. This isn't the best example, and it's also getting dark out, but yeah, aspens can look almost identical to white birch trees. One way to easily tell that they're not is that their bark does not peel. It doesn't peel at all. It's a nice straight tree pretty much. It does not peel at all. And then also the leaves, I mean, it's way too hard to tell for you guys, but the leaves, while they are somewhat similar looking, aspen leaves are more fatter and rounder, and paper birch trees are more oval a little bit skinnier looking, if that makes sense. But just an FYI. Alright guys, so I just came across this yellow birch tree. Nice big one. And you can tell it's yellow birch because it has almost like a yellowish tint at the right angles. And all the bark comes off in strips. This peels right off in strips. And all birch trees, yellow birch, paper birch, river birch, etc., they all have a chemical called betulin on the inside of them. It gives their bark waterproofing, but also makes them highly flammable. It's almost like an accelerated tinder. So this is some of the best stuff you can get. So let's get some of this and show you how well it ignites. All right, so let's see how well this thing ignites with a ferro rod. And again, if this can ignite with a ferro rod, it can definitely ignite with an open flame from a lighter. And I recommend anyone who's into camping and survival always have multiple ways to make a fire: lighter, ferro rod, flint and steel, magnifying lens. It's good to have as much options as you can. So let's go ahead and try this out. Plant my foot down, brace my knife against my foot, dig it in. There you go. Works like a charm, guys. It's such an easy tinder to get, make a fire with from there, and it burns so good. Plenty of time to throw on some more kindling and make a nice fire. So that is yellow birch bark. Let's move on to another birch if we can find one. Alright, so I did not find any of this tree yesterday on my little outing that you guys saw, but today I'm going to continue, and we have a new tree here for you guys. Isaac, what tree is this behind you?
River birch.
What is it?
River birch.
River birch. What is that used for?
Making fires.
Oh, good job, dude. Let's go check it out. Let's look closer, huh? So, river birch, it's kind of growing all over the town I live in, which is pretty awesome. It's pretty abundant. And what sets it apart is the bark flakes off, kind of in big, nice big flakes. Not so much strips, but yeah, it's a lot flakier. And it has all that betulin inside as well, and it makes a great tinder source. And it's called river birch because it usually grows by streams, swamps, little ponds, any water source. They usually will find these out in the wild. And I'm not going to make a fire here because I'm in a public spot and I cannot do that. Alright, so we're back at my house now. That way we can actually ignite this birch bark. And it actually rained, so Isaac's going to go ahead for us and ignite it. See how well it does when wet. Come on, buddy, use those muscles. Keep going, you got it. Try again, you got it. I know that thing's kind of hard to use for you. There you go, hold it, hold it, hold it. There you go.
That's way bigger.
Yeah, the ground is soaking wet, and that's still gonna burn pretty good. Isaac, scooch back a little bit, dude. What do you think, dude? Too easy, huh? Good job. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something new today. Birch bark is an incredible natural tinder in general, but also for wet weather. Just like fatwood, those are probably two of the best natural tinders in my opinion for wet weather, but also just in general. They burn so well. Fatwood, river birch, paper birch, yellow birch, it's all great stuff, guys. So learn how to use it, learn how to find it, identify it, and yeah, leave a comment down below. What kind of natural tinders do you guys use? Have you used birch bark before? Are you going to? Etc. It's good to hear from you guys. It also helps out the channel for sure. And what else we got? Yeah, you guys can use a lighter if you want to. That's totally fine. I would recommend using a ferrocerium rod as well, practicing with that. These things are amazing. They're fantastic for fires. They work in wet weather. Doesn't matter if they get dropped in the water, really. They work when it's super, super cold, where lighters won't. They have pros and cons compared to lighters. Lighters have pros and cons compared to these guys. And it's good to have multiple ignition sources in your kit. That's probably a future video. But enough ranting. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.